And obviously the Smite World Championships, 2 years in a row, the third year it's on its way, and that's what all these teams are playing for. You guys can come and see the ones that actually make it there as well. You can head over to hi-rezexpo.com and get your tickets right about now. And if you use the discount sale code of Group-D, don't forget the dash is very important, you can get 25% off as well. Aggro may be going.
I'll be there, man. I already told everyone I'd be there.
Dralo's definitely going, aren't you, Dralo?
Yeah.
No, we're getting fourth of this line.
Come on, have confidence.
They're losing to the challenger team.
Have confidence.
No.
There's no confidence?
No confidence.
Okay. We got 2 splits today, so it's a bright side, right?
I guess so.
Losses.
But, I mean, we've been shooting for fourth since the beginning, and obviously we're kind of failing at this goal.
Well, you're not doing a very good job of it, by the way. I do like the fact that you did get an upgrade in terms of your outfit this time round, though. It finally looks like Denial have recognized you as a part of the team.
No, last time I was just the biggest idiot, and I kind of forgot my shirt. And this time I didn't forget it. So.
Came with the jersey on as well. We're into the final set of the day. It's been a very interesting day as well, Aggro. We've had 3 splits so far, so a lot still up for grabs. There was potential for 2 teams to run away with this today.
And that's not what we were expecting coming into Group D. This is a little bit more like it, a little bit closer together. You can see SoaR sitting at 7 points, though they are playing up next up against the bottom team here, Envy. Denial at 6, and then Enemy at 3. Basically in order. Enemy should be on bottom according to their seeding, if you will, but a lot of people expected them to come into this land looking a little bit better than Envy.
Andrea, from your point of view here, is this kind of like where you expected teams to go? Obviously, other than jokes aside of you guys coming fourth overall, where did you expect the teams to see? Like, would it really look like this in the standings?
Honestly, the whole standings is no surprise to me. I was kind of weirded out when people were predicting Envy to get second, because I didn't really particularly think they were a very strong team, or at least a team that was strong enough to warrant being the favorite.
And talking about Envy a little bit more here, obviously they struggled on day 1. They looked a little bit better here today, Aggro, overall, with the game that they played so far. They're now walking into SoaR as well, and we saw what happened to them on day 1.
Yeah, Envy needs to get at least 1 point here to keep their hopes alive realistically, basically moving into day 3. But like you mentioned, they were looking better. Up against Enemy, they are able to find the split. Skeeledon and Kiki both looking a little bit stronger. Oceans pulling out the Izanami, looking very good on that, because why not? And then CycloneSpin looking a little bit more like the CycloneSpin of old. So hopefully, if you're rooting for Envy, they got to find at least 1 here if they want to keep it alive.
Now, we mentioned the Izanami as well. On top of that, you spoke about it. Driller, what did you think about that? Because Oceans just kind of brought it out of nowhere there.
It was a very interesting pick, but I didn't really feel like I had much impact on their victories. And it definitely seems like it was something that they practiced and that they sort of were confident in bringing out in land. And honestly, as a bottom team, that is it is, in my opinion, better for them to play their own meta, so I'm okay with them picking it.
Well, it makes sense for them there, and there's Jigz on your screen as well from SoaR, the support player there. Jigz pretty solid for the most part, Aggro, big backbone for this team.
A lot of talk coming into this LAN about Jigz as a player, about SoaR as a whole, but Jigz specifically, is this guy as good as advertised? He's played like it thus far. I mean, he's looked really, really solid, willing to die for his team, willing to set up his team, but also is always near the top end farm, at least among supports, and is right where he needs to be.
And his playstyle overall, from what I can tell, he's very good at adapting, drillers, what I want to say, because you see a lot of his supports like that to be very aggressive or play very passive. Well, he juggles that very well for the most part, depending on the team comp.
He's, in my opinion, probably the best mechanical support in North America, and it plays perfectly for his team because on that team on SoaR, you have Andy as a shot caller, Woony sort of rotates in mid and late, and shot callers from him as well, and so he's sort of perfect for that team because he basically misses nothing. He's very, very mechanically gifted. And
there's an opposition in the lane today, PolarBearMike as well. Aggro, obviously, we saw the Terra game early on. He had a pretty good performance on that.
Very, very good Terra game. Struggled a little bit on the Fafnir in the next game, but PolarBearMike, I mean, there's a lot of talk about this kid. Still very young in the scene, really came in towards the end of last season, right onto Eager, looked good. Still a fledgling leader, but definitely has a lot of leader qualities that you like to have on your team.
Well, let's see what some of the players had to say about PolarBearMike on his transition into this position.
I've known Mike for about a year and a half, and it's been really good to see how fast he's improved because he went from being on a challenger team to getting picked up on Eager in the same month, and that alone is just an example of how well he can improve and how much potential he has to be a good player like that.
I really like Mike. He's really good at support. He was up and coming last season, and he's kind of hasn't found a spot on a higher tier team yet, but he's definitely a better support.
I feel like PolarBearMike is either a hit or a miss. He has a lot of drive to play and win, which is probably his main quality as a support player. He wants to learn and he wants to lead at the same time, which is really nice. But I feel like he hasn't been shining too much, especially with the last few teams that he's been on to. That weren't necessarily the best team, so it's hard as support to shine when you're not on the best team.
I love PolarBearMike. When we were making Envy, I chose him to be my support, like when we were looking for someone. I just thought he was really smart. That's the vibe he gave off. And it's definitely there. He definitely knows everything. He could probably be the top support in North America, but he's really humbling about it. He'll always call everyone else better than him, but I'm pretty sure he's like at the top.
Well, a very interesting situation there with that, especially just listening from Ocean saying that he actually chose to be on PolarBearMike's team. He wanted PolarBearMike.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of guys on Envy were saying. And whenever they were forming the team, Ocean's kind of had the decision on who he wanted for support, and PolarBearMike was the first guy he hit up, and for good reason. Like he mentioned it there, very cerebral player, understands the game at a very deep level, and has a big drive to win.
Now, Jada, obviously we talk about, the play styles of players and things, and how important is this synergy in the duo lane? I mean, we always talk about the trio, but you need some in the duo lane as well.
Right, I mean, your 2v2 cannot be really bad in the duo lane, or else you'll just get... if you get double killed in the duo lane because you have a bad 2v2, it actually affects the early game a lot. And sort of that joke around my sort of friend group, including Mike, is that Mike is sort of like budget shadow queue. Okay. In the sense that they think about the game and approach the game at a very, very similar way. They're both micro-oriented, and they're both over-analytical. And while that can be a large strength, it can also be your biggest weakness because it could lead to hesitation.
Gotcha. Well, on top of that, I think we've seen a lot of budgets being mentioned this weekend all over the course of these groups. Everyone's a budget someone right now. But Raw is not a budget Raw, that's for sure. He's really shown up here, and that's why he's been banned out. Al Kwong alongside it, Athena and Terra. And Envy hovering Arachne. I don't think this is going to be real here, Aggro.
I mean, they did
Nemesis.
second pick Izanami, but not going to be the first pick Arachne. Nemesis, like you mentioned, Drelo, a strong pick here.
And why the Nemesis so early on, Drelo, do you think? Is it that much of a priority here up against SoaR?
I mean, at this land stage, the whole meta has been mid and late game. If Nemesis gets mid and late, there's no jungler that can be better than her, and your late game is almost like guaranteed stronger. I wouldn't be surprised to see SoaR possibly take away the Raijin, because Raijin is a nasty combo. As you see in our games, you Nemesis, Raijin, anyone on the team, they're 100% guaranteed dead. Look for possibly a Raijin pick, or look for SoaR to format a comp around it.
But we see Snoopy hovering over the Janus right now, and the back is potentially for Jigz as well. Two pretty much go-tos for them as well on top of this one. And you mentioned there, Drelo, the mid to late game. Aggro, when we look at it, is kind of true. I mean, every single fight has been determined. The mid-late game fight is the one that's determined who won the game.
That's true, but there have been some leads that kind of snowball out of control in the early game, and particularly in SoaR's games, that has been seen to happen a little bit. I love Snoopy on this Janus. I just think that Janus is so strong right now, and we're really not seeing enough of him to warrant his strength, basically. So Snoopy picking this up, and then Jigz on that Bacchus. Bacchus is preferred by literally every support in the game right now, basically. We see ShadowQ played a lot for you guys, PolarBearMike plays it a lot, and so does Jigz.
Go ahead, Drelo.
And sort of what SoaR is doing with their Janus comp is they're drafting a pick comp, and they're looking to bypass Envy's extremely strong team fight with Raijin Nem by looking for picks, similar to what they did in Game 2.
I like the call to give Ocean's Jing way here as well, Aggro, just because obviously against a Bacchus, the flops don't really work out as well as you hope to, because it will give her an extra chance to escape.
Plus, it just gives Oceans the option to carry the game, basically. I mean, Oceans still has that potential. We haven't really seen it quite yet from him, but it's there. It's bubbling underneath the surface, and putting him on a character like Jingwei that lets him farm really, really well kind of gives that option open to him.
Well, the Raijin pick up here for Kiki this time in the mid lane again. He played it a little bit earlier on in the tournament. Do you expect here, Drelo, to see SoaR maybe ban away the Sobek, some of the initiators from the support role?
I mean, of course, obviously. The Jingwei pick, although you could argue that is a strong pick, it comes at a heavy cost. That's a double support ban. And when you're looking for something like a initiation,
it's a good call
to go with the Nemesis Raijin, your options are going to be very, very limited.
Yeah, with the Sobek banned out already, you're going to see probably another one go that way as well. But Envy going to turn attention to the solo lane here, give a little bit of an option here potentially for what Cyclone is going to do against Baskin. Last time these two faced off, Baskin did manage to solo Cyclone in the early game.
Going to be interesting to see if either team is willing to give up Vamana, basically. Who's going to be able to secure that pick? That's been the the best pick thus far in solo lane. It's got one of the best win rates for sure. Amaterasu banned away there from Baskin, one of his best gods for sure.
Right.
Here's the Fafnir ban coming in from SoaR, still looking to target out PolarBearMike.
The Fafnir one, a bit interesting there, Driller. It's not the same sort of setup you get out of an Athena or a Sobek here, but they do rate it higher, it seems.
They're banning the Fafnir because, again, they're drafting a pick comp. They're looking to bypass their team fight by looking for picks. And they're banning Fafnir because Fafnir, again, is an incredibly hard support to kill, probably the hardest support to kill in the sense that, or one of the hardest at least, in the sense that he has double jump and an ult that gives him immunity.
And that just gets him out of dangerous situations. Not only that, the Coerce will heal him up as well in the team fights and steroid your team on top of that. So 4 focus bans against PolarBearMike this game. Well, if you didn't know what SoaR thought about EnVy as a team, they recognize PolarBearMike could be an issue.
Could be. I mean, and those are 4 gods that are very, very strong right now in the support role. Baskin does get that Vamana. Going to be really important to keep check on him. That's how SoaR lost their game really against Denial, was Homie really spending a lot of time in that solo lane, keeping Baskin down, giving Benji the lead. We'll have to see if EnVy want to do the same thing here with this Nemesis.
At the same time though, Driller, I mean, Nemesis against Vamana, it's great for Nemesis. It's like 3 protections for nothing, and Vamana's not going to be that useful in the ult.
I mean, it's kind of hard to gank Vamana in the early game as a Nemesis because, you just ults and runs away. And they counter-initiate with Janus Thor. But mid and late game, like I said before, if you Nemo, Raijin, anybody, they're going to die.
They're going to die anyway. Well, it's Kumbhakarna being hovered over here by PolarBearMike. He was limited on what gods were available to him there. Agro, how do you feel about that one?
I like the Kumbhakarna. It interrupts the spin to win from Thor, the burp from Bacchus. Vamana's not going to be able to chase down people as well, but it isn't the initiator that EnVy is really lacking. Right. They're really relying on CycloneSpin on this Erlang Shen to come in and initiate fights from a distance with that pin.
That's a good point, Jello. They're lacking initiation here.
Right. For even with the Erlang rotation, their initiation is still sort of very weak. And also, Kumba is probably the best pick here in the sense that, like, Kumba is probably like one of the more hard supports to kill with the fact that he has the mez, he has the ult, he has the double dash with the ult.
Sleepy time.
And sleepy time with his passive as well. And so I think Kuma's definitely their best option here.
Well, it's going to be the best option they can really get for themselves, especially with all the supports drafted away. Agro, who are you going with this game?
I'm going with SoaR. I love the Janus, I love Andy on Thor, and the Vamana and Soul as well.
What about you, Drelo?
As long as I'd love to go with EnVy just to mix things up. SoaR is definitely. They definitely shown in our game, too, that they know how to play against this comp and they know how to bypass their team fight. I'm looking at SoaR.
Yeah, I can kind of agree that it's going to be SoaR for me as well. They just look too dominant in day 1. I think they're going to continue it in day 2. Well, the casters are ready anyway. So Janus and Anatoly for the last set of the day.
Group D has had 2 games now where a single player has been targeted out, 5 gods ripped away from their god pool. Obviously, we saw that happen to Denial. Didn't really affect Denial too much. Obviously, reaching into that Ratatosker deep in Homieface's pocket worked out. Do you think this was the correct decision for SoaR to just target out PBM so much?
Well, we haven't seen PBM play the Kumbhakarna. We're going to see just how well that's going to synergize for EnVyUs, but I'm looking at SoaR's composition, and they got everything that they really wanted to. They have such a diverse god pool that they're going to have so much global pressure between Snoopy and Andinster, and then the late game form for Metyankey and Baskin. And Metyankey is one of these quiet killers where, like, he hasn't made that big of an impact earlier today in their set against Denial, but he did a lot of player damage regardless.
This just very consistent hunter. You always know that you're going to be able to rely on Met to at least stay even in a lane. And SoaR, this set here, if they find the 2-0, they are guaranteed into Super Regionals. If they split, there's still, I think, a chance for them to not make it, although incredibly unlikely. The team still wanting to find a solid 2-0 here.
And honestly, I'm predicting a 2-0 split, or 2-0.
A 2-0 split. Oh, really?
Split, yeah.
That's interesting. How does that work out?
That's a new one. We don't question these kinds of theory crafts that I come up with. We just accept it as fact. But the Gandhi facts, there's Gandhi facts and then there's totally facts. I'm going to one-up him. But anyways.
The Gandhi facts are the best, right? Like,
this guy hits 83% of his water sprouts.
And that's just the feeling. It's just he's like, that's fact, and it's just his intuition. Like, I think that's what I think I calculated that right. Starting off though, no invades, but this Thor, Andinster, I mean, we talked about Andinster, the meme kind of died a little bit, obviously, after he won the first Smite World Championship, but still talks of his performance. While it's been okay at lands, it hasn't been phenomenal. It hasn't been that really dominant Season 1 Andinster that we used to see. This land, though, different story.
Absolutely. He's made the necessary adjustments from the Epsilon Invitational. Wasn't quite all there with Snoopy transitioning into that mid role, still playing those hunters every now and then, but now playing these more traditional mages, now playing the Januses, the Raws, the Agnis. It feels that Snoopy and Andinster are very comfortable together.
And that's the reason that we did see the replacement. You know, there was questions, you know, Herwind a little bit inconsistent, but Andy and Snoopy have wanted to play together for a long time. Ever since Cog Red and Cognitive Prime kind of had that split up, right? We started to see some roster changes. We know they've always really worked well together.
Yeah, these players have known each other for just so long, even before they were in Cog Red or Cog Prime. I think they were in another team together, just like every now and then subbing for each other. Vicious and Delicious, or Silver Snakes, maybe
something like that. I don't
Kret's
know.
old team, Silver Snakes. Shout out to Kret.
Oh, Silver Snakes, man. I just want the what was that show called? I'm trying to I can't.
The Hidden Temple show?
Yes, the Hidden Temple.
Yeah,
we need more teams named after that. But so far in this game, a minute and a half in, nothing going on too far, but you have to imagine SoaR have been really well with their timings on when they want to fight every single game. They have those double globals coming out of Snoopy and Andinster, and you would have to expect that they're going to be setting up for some side lane here soon.
And that's why maybe it's going to be very tricky for Skeeledon to find a gank onto Baskin. Knowing CycloneSpin, he's going to want to play aggressive against the late game Vamana. Maybe Skeeledon can synergize with a gank there, but you always have to take into account the global presence out of SoaR.
Especially on this Erlang Shen. I mean, we've seen Cyclone really like to take fights. Also, kind of builds it a little bit hybrid as well, going for a lot of damage. Apparently, the build that we saw out of Shattered when he brought into the jungle, something very similar to what CycloneSpin likes to bring.
And we see in the dueling constantly Envy getting pushed out, Metyankey and Jigz playing their comfort Soul Bacchus combination, and all this gold that's being lost. There's going to be a lot of power spikes, I would say, for Metyankey to really keep pushing this once the supports start rotating away.
Starting the Helm as well, so really aware of, you know, Skeeledon's potential to gank him. Also doesn't want to get outboxed by Oceans here. And this is something to talk about. We saw 4 bans onto PolarBearMike as well as the Bacchus stripped away from him. I'm sure he knows how to play Kumbhakarna, but it's kind of one of those things where, you know, how often does he get to play the laning phase? Is he used to it? Does he know exactly how this matchup works? Similar to those solo laners who have to know all those intricate playstyles.
And the thing about the Kumbha paired up with Raijin specifically is the Epic Uppercut doesn't set up the initial burst right off the bat. Normally you're looking for the Scylla, the Raw, stuff like that to get the bing bang punch right off the bat, but there's still a lot of setup to get off the rest of the cooldowns. You have the root, the sleepy time, just to be able to lock targets down.
Well, to the sky goes Andinster, probably looking at this speed buff. He does come down, and he finds Skeeledon, does a little bit of damage. TP actually coming in, and the body blocks. Andinster does not let Skeeledon cancel that ward, and Skeeledon has to concede. Kiki not in a position to contest either, and the first invade we see goes successful.
They're going to even be able to portal, forcing out the purification. Great aggressive plays coming out of SoaR. Immediately ignoring their own speed. They recognize they can use the globals, but in the solo lane, forcing out the ultimate from Baskin. He should be fine, though.
And one of the reasons we've seen so much of Vamana, I think, this tournament is kind of, he's very safe in lane, very hard to gank and set up. We saw the same thing with the Sun Wukong, that enemy. They picked that, banned away the Vamana, and kind of the name of the game has been camp solo lane this tournament. That's a meta that, you know, hasn't been around for quite some time, but solo laners, you know, not really used to that pressure.
Vamana is a god that you just can't lose on. You don't have to win the laning phase with Vamana, but as long as you know what you're doing, there's no possible way for you to lose the laning phase. You can easily clear the wave under your own tower, or at least be able to get the archers if you're getting too far out pressured. And now hitting level 7 on this Vamana, we see that actually Baskin has a little bit of a gold lead because Skeeledon did share, I think, 2 waves already from Cyclone.
And I mean, that's the smallest gold difference. There's already a 1K lead, and we've seen not a single thing happen outside of that speed buff invade. Can we actually take a look at the damage done? I would imagine almost everyone below 1,000, you know, outside of Erlang Shen, obviously he's going to be poking in lane, and then Metyankey doing a good job of keeping Oceans and PolarBearMike locked under that tier 1.
Normally we don't see this kind of damage so early coming out of a hunter, let alone a magical hunter.
Yeah.
Metyankey playing the soul, being able to constantly bully, and as a result we see PolarBearMike 1 level behind Jigz now.
Think of it this way, last game we saw that Agni coming out from Chaos, and I think at, you know, 25 minutes, multiple team fights, He had 5,000 some odd damage. Metyankey already half of that just from the pressure he's been able to apply.
CycloneSpin using his ultimate to get the sustain, staying a little bit longer. He knows that Baskin's ultimate is still on cooldown.
That timing window was so well played for Skeeledon. You saw him rotate over. Baskin's ult was down at the time, but Baskin really quick to recognize that that gank was coming through. You could see that ward on the bottom side of Fire Giant. So we're being very careful. We saw them lose 2 enemy earlier today off of the pressure, or excuse me, to denial off of that pressure.
But now they're against EnVyUs, who have been struggling throughout this whole weekend thus far. They lost to SoaR and Denial in day number 1. They found a split against enemy earlier on today. So there is a little bit of sign of life from EnVy, but it's hard to really bounce back from such hard losses.
Surprise, no teleport there from Andinster. Maybe a little bit worried because he didn't have vision on EnVy. They loop around the corner here. Snoopy is going to be able to exit out, and Jigz taking a 1v3, doing a ton of damage. Andinster takes to the sky, lining up his ultimate, finds Cyclone on the crash. Great stun though, going to keep Cyclone alive for now. The wall, he's on the wrong side.
He can't get out.
Oh,
what a great wall. CycloneSpin going to get first blooded. Jigz trying to find the stun, setting up the portal on Stable Vortex, not on cooldown. Umbrella Ring, the first one connects, but PBM is just going to be safe under that tower.
Might have killed, but SoaR getting that first blood. You saw EnVy loop around, really early ult from Kiki, and all that happens is Andinster really recognizes it so quickly, hammers out the portal from Snoopy, and then Jigz just does so much damage to EnVy.
It was also kind of a great bait, I would say, from Snoopy and Andinster, because it forced Kiki to ulti towards the left-hand side, whereas we saw on the right, there was just so much action, so not getting off the damage where EnVyUs kind of really wanted
Kiki.
to.
I don't think he has Purification right now, and he's going to Thunder Crash away. I don't know if the hammer was up for Andinster there, but you can see on the Faceit player comparison, Kiki and Snoopy, 2 different styles, although both players who have gone through multiple role changes. Kiki, I think he's played, what, support, hunter, solo, and now mid. I think the only thing he hasn't played is jungle, whereas Snoopy, kind of that same vein. You know, he used to be known as the super sub. He could play any role, and he actually started off this season playing that support, then moving over to solo lane. Didn't work out for him, but I think he's found a more comfortable home in mid.
It's also a great strength to see your ability to adapt to these different roles, because you can always take something out of it. Knowing how to play against a role is just as important as playing that role specifically.
Yes.
So now transitioning into the mid lane, being synergetic with your new junglers, Andinster for Snoopy and Skeeledon for Kiki, I think the better adaptation was definitely for SoaR.
Oh, Shen's going pretty deep here on Met. Disapparate's going to last him for a little bit. He has Purification, and Ocean's not going to dive that no vision, and against those double globals, he's got to be careful. Kiki is in mid. Andinster's going to read the Thunder Crash and teleport to him, trying to get up to the sky. Does manage to, just barely. Now Snoopy could be in a little bit of trouble. Andinster ults away. He saw Cyclone rotating in.
He saw it from the sky, and that's a great play overall from SoaR. They're able to invade the speed buff twice so far, and they have themselves about a 2,500 gold lead, but now EnVy, they're going to try to start up the gold here, recognizing that Thor ultimate's down, the ultimate from Janus is down. Not that much pressure coming out of SoaR.
Jigz trying to get in close, but that Wrath going to confirm the Gold Fury. SoaR doing a great job of farming in the early game, and still, with that Gold Fury, I mean, it was pretty early on, not worth that much. It's still a lead for SoaR, 1,700.
But more importantly, it's also the experience gap. It's about 3,000 or so at this point, and looking at the solo lane is more importantly. Baskin on the Vamana, 2 levels ahead. He almost has Breastplate of Valor completely finished, and once that has been finished, he's going to be staying in the laning phase for so long, constantly proxying between tier 1 and tier 2. And look at the solo tower of CycloneSpin. He actually rotates into a whole wave. Just great farming from Baskin.
I think every time we've seen a solo laner have a 2-level lead at about this time, their team has won. Like, they really play through them. And it's going to be interesting to see if SoaR start rotating Baskin over. We know what Baskin can bring in team fights here, and they're trying to continue to get him ahead. CycloneSpin burns his ult, and the wall just off the mark there, you could see Cyclone finding that small sliver to turtle drift through.
Very successful gank. They didn't get the kill, but it didn't matter because they didn't commit any heavy cooldowns to trade out for CycloneSpin's ulti. They could always try again for round 2. The Thor ultimate is available. They can
Round
really
3.
lock him down.
And now CycloneSpin has no ultimate. He is going to get the knockup from the turtle. He'll be okay for now. And PolarBearMike and Skeeledon, they've got to just sit around this right-hand side. So we're putting out so much pressure and Andy in the sky.
This is the 3rd time that they're going to try to go for this invade on the speed buff. It's just so problematic for Skeeledon, not able to get it after the first respawn, but hammering a aggressively now. He had to disengage. Skeeledon, though,
Kiki.
on the flip side, being able to take him out.
That portal really saving Andinster there. Might have been able to get out either way, but again, SoaR invade that speed buff, they steal it away, and they get a kill onto Skeeledon. It's just been slow and steady. They're not taking huge wins. It's not always the cleanest, but they are finding those slight edges, and it's starting to add up despite Envy having that first Gold Fury, a 3K difference.
The experience gap is just starting to really punish Envy here. They can't take these team fights. Skeeledon was just a little bit too far forward into 4 members out of SoaR, instantly collapsing on him, and this is something that SoaR really like to do, and you can read them like a book, but the question is, like, how do you really adapt if you're EnVyUs here?
I mean, it's hard, right? Because anytime SoaR's got a lead, they've ran with it. I think the only games they've lost is when they've got behind significantly. Even if they stay even, that's the scariest thing about SoaR is their consistency. Even when behind, they know the conditions that they have to follow to find victories, whereas other teams, sometimes when they get behind, they struggle. They're not really sure how to adapt and change their play style. You can never count SoaR out in any game they're in.
Even against the game where they lost to Denial earlier today, they were still in a good position, but now a nice little epic uppercut just to survive, but Andinster, he wants this kill.
PBM's dead. I don't see him get out of this one right now. Baskin is probably going to confirm it. They don't even need Andinster's ult. Andinster's going to come down into the mid lane, immediately get ulted by Nemesis, and he will escape. Kiki's got to get out, though. Jigz finds him under tower. Intoxicate and a basic. Jigz finds a kill. Now Oceans has rotated in the middle of 4. He's got to ult away as well. Envy is just everywhere on the map, whereas SoaR fighting as a unit.
And popping the meditation, Baskin's going to allow this 5-man siege to happen in the mid lane. Tier 1 is definitely going to go down. There's only 3 members alive for EnVyUs, and 2 of them are relatively low, and 1 without mana.
So clean. I think clean is the name of the game for SoaR this tournament. Every game they've won in the dominating fashion, you know, day 1, and even this game here right now, everything has been smooth. Everyone's been working together. They're really recognizing the timings as well. We're seeing Jigz and Andinster do a great job of baiting out those purification relics and then reinitiating, you know, 30 seconds later.
They're just too grouped up right now. Look at the wards around the gold, the fire giant. I see more red than I see blue, and this is why SoaR have been able to get the 4 kills that they have right now. They're getting the invades aggressively, using their global presence between Andinster and Snoopy, also bailing people out. We saw Andinster twice now barely get away with any health.
And now a gank on the left-hand side. Skeeledon trying to make something happen. Just look at that. 4 levels down to Metyankey. Oceans is 2 levels down. They're not going to be able to kill anyone in that position.
No, not at all. And this first pick, Nemesis for Envy, just hasn't been working out for them. Now finishing off the hi-rez Lament, 2 levels behind Andinster, and he hasn't been making these plays right now because when you draft Nemesis, you're usually trying to set up the Raijin burst damage to follow up. And like we mentioned before, all these target bans onto PBM force them into the Kumbhakarna, and it just doesn't seem that they're comfortable grouping up against SoaR.
We saw Skeeledon try and set up some ganks in the soul lane, but Baskin really recognized them instantly, was able to avoid him, and now Skeeledon, his ults have really been counter initiations. When Thor comes down, he pops the ult, now dashing forward, trying to find Snoopy, who just portals through the wall, now turning his attention to Jigz, but here comes Baskin in the back line. Snoopy, big ult through the middle of the team fight, and Andinster comes down onto Skeeledon. PolarBearMike is going to help peel for him for now, but Skeely still in a bad spot, trying to space himself, but he's so deep into SoaR's jungle.
He had to double dash away. The Stellar Burst zoning him away. He has nowhere to go. He has to go over a rock or a hard place.
Tower, okay.
Suiciding into that tier 2 tower in the soul lane. Now it's going to be a 5-on-4 for SoaR. They're grouped up around the mid and the right-hand side. Gold Fury is up, and this will be a good power play. They have 20 seconds until Skeeledon revives.
Good job, though, on Skeeledon, making sure to get to that tower, so there was going to be no kill bounty for SoaR. Still, assists do go to Andinster and Metyankey, and like you said, they have a power play option. Gold Fury was available, but surprisingly enough, SoaR is splitting the map, getting their jungle buffs on the right-hand side, and just making sure Envy can't sneak it away.
I don't think they honestly care about Gold Fury at this point because the Wrath availability on the side of EnVyUs is there on CycloneSpin, right? So you have to always take that into consideration when you're going for it. Surprisingly enough, CycloneSpin has him back for his 2nd relic at level 14, so we'll see what option he goes for later on. But if I'm Envy here, I'm looking for some sneaky Gold Furies because it doesn't seem that SoaR really care about it.
We haven't really seen Envy be able to team fight as a unit. They've been fighting, but they're also spread out. You know, you need this Nemesis Raijin combination, but we haven't seen it once this game. I mean, we just haven't seen that combo happen.
No, not at all. And that's something that EnVyUs really needs to start working on and implementing on the same target. We saw Skeeledon use his ultimate immediately onto Snoopy while the portal was up, through space and time was up as well. And that's probably not the target you really want to go on unless he gets a little bit lower.
And now SoaR looking for the Gold Fury right now. getting some poke damage off, trying to set up for this red buff steal as well. Let's actually listen into SoaR as they set up this Gold Fury and look to get a pick.
Ulting up the shield. I'm putting pearls on the wall. So much damage.
Kumbha dash.
Come on.
How was that?
Finish Raijin. That Jing way.
Burn it, Raijin. Portal him.
We can dive, Jing.
Yeah, we can dive. I'm with
Do you
you.
have anything?
No. He's too far with his dash.
Gotta go. Gold.
We're stuck back here a little bit.
They have
It's just you. Just you.
Yeah, I'm going to. Please, let's get out.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Put on the wall, people. No, I'm fine. Alright.
We're diving too far.
I've been.
I shot us. Met us when you get to us.
I'm gonna circle. I'm gonna mid. Erlang ult now.
Right.
That too. We're looking at Erlang. He has no ult. Yeah. He's still 4 meter.
Oh my god. The portal. I'm heavenling us. Be careful.
Erlang slow.
I was dusted. I got his dash.
You might
Back out. Can we back out? I just want to back
we should reset.
Okay. I'm trying to save my dove.
Yeah, I dove too far there.
Yeah.
Wait, we're still deathless, so let's play like keep going for it. We have. Oh, wait, right. Defend gold. I'm coming.
They don't have to hold on for 10 seconds.
Raijin dash.
You got stun.
It's Skeely. They're moving speed on you guys.
I need to back out.
I'm TPing back.
They're not on it.
Be careful. I really want to back.
I need to back. I have to back no matter what. We have Janus ult win.
4. I'm
TPing
Janus
ult.
Probably 4.
Snoopy has Janus ult in 4 seconds. It is up. I'm kind of interested. We see it coming through
not on the
way
mark,
off the mark, but here comes Baskin, a TP in from Cyclone as well. Envy are fully committing to this. They do secure the Gold Fury, but here comes SoaR, raining down. Andinster lands, finds PBM, chases deeper into the team fight. CycloneSpin, Oceans, and Kiki manage to get to their tier 2. They pay with Mike's life, but they do secure the Gold Fury, knocking at SoaR's lead.
SoaR don't care about the Gold Fury. They get the pick afterwards anyway, and now they're going to start grouping up and get some towers off the board. They're going to get a wave in middle, transition into the right-hand side. They're going to invade some more buffs, get more farm, more experience, separate the gap away from EnVyUs, and then continue to win these team fights because all Envy have going for them is the Wrath on CycloneSpin to confirm the gold.
But I mean, at the very least, Envy are starting to chip away. The question is, they need to hold this next time. I mean, it's been okay for now, but with a 5K difference, 17 minutes in, that's pretty significant. And saying you've been talking about that experience lead.
It's
now,
over 10,000.
Now almost 12,000 at this point.
At this point, EnVyUs needs to really figure things out in the jungle. They need to start warding aggressively to see where SoaR want to commit. Left, middle, right, doesn't matter. Avoid the team fights, look for the split pushes. We see on the left-hand side, CycloneSpin doing a good job chipping away at the tower, but now has to be careful against the Soul. Not that much magical defense on Cyclone.
Instead, right now, SoaR not rotating over to deal with Cyclone. Metyankey can handle it for himself, but SoaR going right at the fight, they dove a little bit too far. You heard the call, gold, 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 gold. Then the camera moves over to Baskin diving a Phoenix, almost getting picked up. I mean, if Oceans was a little luckier, if he had a crit on any of those explosive bolts, Baskin might die there.
Nah, it was all calculated. He had Meditate, he had Ultimate. There was no way he was going to die.
He actually calculated out the crit chance.
Yeah, as Baskin, he would say to himself, like, it was nuts, dude.
It was nuts. Jigz trying to invade this red buff as well. And I mean, Envy, they just have no answer. They can't contest this. Every team fight has gone poorly for them. They've just got to let they've got to let all of their jungle go. I mean, they can't do anything about that.
I think that's their third red buff gone. They lost their speed buff at least 4, maybe 5 times in the game. Blue buff probably went away 2 or 3 times. So just overall a great presence in the jungle from SoaR throughout every stage of the game thus far, with the exception of initially getting the first buffs.
And now a couple defensive items coming in. You see the wing blade picked up for Jigz. Definitely likes that movement speed and kind of complete counter to Nimult. On top of that, Chronos pendant finish for Snoopy. Metyankey finishes Obsidian Shard. Like, these are some pretty big items coming through for SoaR now.
Frostbound on Baskin. He's going to be able to chase forever on that big baby. Have to be so careful if you're Kiki and Oceans right now. They're going to be able to really force the disengages from Kiki and Oceans once Baskin gets in that backline. Level 19 at the 19-minute mark. This is getting a little bit out of control.
And Basket, I mean, Andinster, Snoopy, and Jigz are all relatively close to Envy. Obviously, they have a couple level lead, but I'm just looking at this solo lane and Hunter. Oceans is level 15. Metyankey is almost maxed.
Yeah, and this is going to be so much trouble for EnVy, forcing out the Sanctuary already, and now the rest of SoaR grouping up in the mid tier 2 tower while Metyankey is on left. Both the side laners are going into their roles.
And they're not even attempting to do Fire Giant. We saw the same thing with that Gold Fury. I mean, SoaR we're just going to keep winning fights. And when we get a kill, then we're going to go for towers. And, I mean, both towers in mid are gone. Right-hand side only has one remaining. Not a lot of pressure onto the left side of the map yet, but that's just kind of the ebb and flow of competitive Smite.
It's all about taking these small, calculated risks just to continue to get the advantage. Like we heard before, Andinster said that they're deathless, and they're playing so clean. You know, they're going for all these plays without giving anything at all in return.
Nice route there from Mike, avoiding the knockup. Obviously, he is knockup immune when he channels that ability, which is, you know, kind of one of those small matchups. You like that with Ares too, really good against that Bacchus player.
Also, like, you trying to synergize a little bit more with the rest of his team with the root. Like we mentioned before, all these target bans for PBM. I think that they weren't really thinking about the Bacchus versus Kumbhakarna matchup necessarily. It was just more about trying to set up Oceans with the knockup into Kiki's damage.
Well, we didn't talk about it, but something very important in this game has been... Oh, actually, Skeely gonna try and turn around on Andinster here. He gets the stun, and Skeely's just get me out. Kiki's in his way. But PolarBearMike just hitting level 12. Now has a shell. Didn't have that before in the previous team fights.
That's going to help them survive for a little bit longer, but the thing about SoaR is they make such hard target switches that as long as the shell isn't on every single member out of EnVyUs, then SoaR can still find that one weak target that hasn't gotten the protection boost, and as a result, SoaR can really continue the same pace that they've been doing, just sticking as a herd, and then looking for somebody isolated.
If you're EnVy, how are you getting back into this game?
Well, I wouldn't start by doing this. I would not be aggressing onto a level 20 Vamana at this point. And I think
EnVy, no.
Janus is going to be ulting.
No.
This is not a good idea.
EnVy,
Double knockup.
Ocean's agility's away, but PolarBearMike getting clipped at the edge of that. And here comes Andinster, finds 3 in the middle. Airstrike, Ocean's just trying to get out, but EnVy, they're chipped away. Metyankey on the backside as well. Ocean's getting stripped of his life. Managed to get to the tier 2, and now SoaR regrouping. They've taken out Mike, chasing forward. EnVy so low right now. Only CycloneSpin healthy, but it's still 5 members of SoaR barreling down the right-hand side.
Baskin getting Kiki. That's 2 members dead so far. Getting the tier 2 tower, but it's going to be CycloneSpin trying to stall as long as possible. 1v4. He's going to be able to get taken out as well. So that's 3 dead on the side of EnVyUs, now being rewarded with a tier 2 tower.
Absolutely no respect for that Janus ult. Also, I believe a sprint popped, really allowing SoaR to close that gap. And even the Thor ultimate, really questionable decision there, all grouping up on the right-hand side.
I think that EnVy probably thought that SoaR were going for Gold Fury because they have no vision.
Maybe.
EnVy has no vision of Gold, so they're like, okay, we don't know where the hell they are. They're probably doing Gold, right? This would be the best logical answer for SoaR to be doing, so they thought maybe they could squeeze 500 Gold back into their favor because obviously they can't win team fights at this point in time, so going for these towers wouldn't be a bad idea for EnVy.
At this point, you have to make risky plays.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. What's the goal difference now? Over 10,000. We know the experience is at 19,000. Metyankey and Baskin just hitting level 20, so that is a huge difference. I mean, almost impossible to come back from.
3 levels ahead of their opposition. SoaR, like we mentioned before, they're very clean about every little thing they do. They didn't even start the Gold Fury up until the 23-minute mark. This is their first Gold Fury of the game. They've got this lead, experience, and gold-wise by doing everything but the Gold Fury.
Just team fighting, invading, pressure, pressure, pressure. That's been the name of the game for SoaR. They have some of the most talented players in North America mechanically. You know, there's some questions about Snoopy and Mitt, but, you know, what it comes down to is Snoopy is still this phenomenal player, and he's really been showing up on this Janus today.
And as long as he's comfortable playing the guys that he's playing with, the crew that's around him, they make it seem so easy. We listen to the comms if you're sitting in the esports arena or when we jump in through the Steel Series listening. It's just all comfortability on every member from SoaR.
Fire Giant started up. Andinster on zone duty. Jigz is around the corner as well, and EnVy can't even come close to getting in this. Metyankey's Disaparate gonna activate. He takes a little bit of poke damage, and Fire Giant goes the way of SoaR. And actually, the fight's already happened. Janus ult just off the mark, but that does get SoaR into the engagement. Kiki's picked off. Andinster finds Oceans as well. He's gonna be eliminated. 3 members alive, and EnVy finally on the board. But this might just be game if SoaR can clean up.
If they could just find one more kill, they should be able to get these last couple towers. Skeeledon gonna get clipped through the wall by Baskin's Umbrella Ring, but now SoaR SoaR, they don't want the towers on the left. They want to go for this mid. Phoenix, Jigz is going to be able to tank it up, and we're going to see Metyankey absolutely melted. 253 damage per hit.
Well, they're not going to have the shutout like they had against enemy here,
Sloppy
but
game.
still
Sloppy game from
sloppy
SoaR.
game. That's hey, if they're telling themselves sloppy game, I mean this is a scary team, man. Energy watching at home, they better be worried. This is not the SoaR they faced at DreamHack. This is not the SoaR they faced at Epsilon Invitational. This is a SoaR that can take on the best in the world.
Baskin is so smart. He used his dash underneath, knowing that he would be able to get in position to clip PBM on the retreat, and now getting 2 Phoenixes to their name. SoaR doing a good job, but they do have to wait for the revive from Snoopy. They have to rely on his utility that he brings as a Janus player, because he could still bail away Baskin and Andinster if they go too aggressive with those portals, also giving them the movement speed with the threshold.
SoaR not wanting to end yet, obviously. Didn't have any fire minions. They just took those Phoenixes, but this is, I mean, this is the strongest they're going to be right now. Fire Giant in hand. They've got 2 fire waves pushing down mid. They've got massive, massive experience leads. PolarBearMike is level 13 at 26 minutes.
It's not looking pretty for them. 15,000 gold lead for SoaR. They still had to worry about these 2 towers on the left-hand side, which gives a little bit of protections to the Titan, making it a little bit more annoying for SoaR to clean it out. At this point, SoaR, if they just group up as 5, they could all just push that Titan over.
You always want to have that that sliver of hope, but it has been the group of death. Andinster's been the Grim Reaper for everyone else in this tournament.
Baskin's like one of those guys that's going to be sitting behind you, kneeling down, and Andinster's the one that's pushing you over Baskin. That's what it seems that SoaR have been doing the whole weekend.
I feel the same thing. I mean, that's not even shouting out how good Jigz and Met have been. They've kind of been quiet for the most part, and that's not to their discredit. That's just to Baskin and Andinster showing up on land.
Just SoaR as a whole are just such a dominant force to be reckoned with, and EnVyUs have not come prepared as well as SoaR have.
I will say, EnVyUs were pretty disappointed in themselves, definitely put in a lot more work. I mean, despite this game, they've had a better showing overall. Here comes the push. SoaR trying to find the win. Kiki very deep into this team fight. He goes up into the ult, and before the animation can even allow him to find a shot, Met has already eliminated him. PBM back to the fountain to you. Fire waves roaming in here. Skeeledon around the corner trying to make something happen, but just like his fellow Kiki, dead in an instant.
And that's going to be it. SoaR's going to be able to clean the first game out. Andinster even diving the fountain, but using that Sanctuary, hammering away. SoaR cleanly winning the first game.
Just absolute perfect execution and team fights coming from them. I'm excited. I was a little bit worried. You know, I'm an NA fanboy. You know, I'm very happy that Energy won Worlds, you know, put a little diversity into it, but it's been a long time since I think I've seen an NA team not only so good individually, but so good as a unit. And, you know, this is giving me remnants of, you know, that Cloud9, you know, Baskin and Andinster, they're here, and now they have, you know, different players around them, but still kind of that same presence.
There's that one team out of every group that you can really look at and pinpoint like, okay, this is the team, right? Orbit out of Group A, we saw Eager out of B, and then Group C, we also saw Energy, and now SoaR are just joining the elite crew. I think all these 4 top teams out of these groups, I can't even guess who would win Worlds.
I know. I mean, just thinking about this, SoaR, if they find this last win, they are guaranteed for Super Regionals. They're either going to face LG or Energy, or not Energy, excuse me, Eager. Both really intense sets, and same thing, you know, if Denial make it out, they're going to be facing off that as well, and that means Enemy is going to have to go through the gauntlet. Obviously, still games to play tomorrow, but that's, I feel, how it's kind of looking right now.
The North America gauntlet is just going to be so scary. Best of 3s all the way up the ladder. It's going to be some really high, intense quality games.
Well, we just saw pretty quality game coming out from SoaR, and we've got Hindu on standby to break it down for you.
A spectacular performance from the boys one more time of SoaR here. Aggro, Drelo, any surprises really?
No. SoaR's really good at Smite.
Seems to pretty much be all and end all. I mean, they were even able to fool around towards the end there, started to have a little bit more fun with that one. Snoopy was a feeder though, just want to point that one out. He did die in that game, so it wasn't like the enemy set of yesterday. At least he did get a kill in that one. But what was the big take-home points from that one, Aggro? What did it all boil down to?
I mean, it boils down to you give SoaR this many comfort picks, and they're going to make you pay for it. I mean, you give Metyankey Soul, he's going to look really comfortable. Snoopy on Janus, Andinster on Thor, Baskin on Vamana, and Jigz on Bacchus. They all play those gods to a high level all the time. You just can't give them that many comfort picks. It's a pick composition like Drelo was saying, but SoaR plays those compositions better than anyone in North America right now.
Drelo, what do you do in the second set then? I mean, if you're looking at how that set went for EnVy, that game went for EnVy, you saw the first set from yesterday, same sort of situation. You come into the fourth and final game against them now. What do you change?
I mean, I think you can change completely, you know, your picks and bans. We saw, I mean, SoaR not only has practice, has sort of like, you know, experience against this comp in 3 games, but they also have an obvious sort of solution against that comp and a way to play around that comp. I think you just switch it up and just completely change what you're doing.
Just change the style completely there. Do you reckon that's the right idea, Redbro?
I agree with you. I mean, obviously that sort of composition is not going to work out. SoaR is just too good to play your game. They're always going to be playing their game. So you kind of just have to try something new.
Jank.
Why not, man?
Cheese and jank. Let's just go with that. Let's just go for invades early on, maybe some nice early game pressure and try and force it that way.
It couldn't hurt. You're probably going to end up getting more than 1 kill doing things like that.
That's possible, but is it really easy? The way this meta's gone as well, I mean, is an early game comps a thing that you could even look at here, Drelo?
I mean, especially against SoaR, which in my opinion are one of the, if not the smartest teams in North America, early game Jake was not going to work against them.
Not going to work at all. No. So go super late game and just hope you can hold on.
Just go for,
super hyper carries.
Yeah, a lot of hyper carries, exactly. You just go for like, I don't know, Gibalanke in the ADC role.
Drelo, give me something, because at the moment we're struggling here of like, what can they do better? Because everyone's just like, no, they're done.
To beat SoaR, you need to beat them at their mid game. You need to beat them at their best. You need to play their game and beat them at their game. You cannot cheese them. You cannot sort of like do anything crazy or janky, because most times, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 times, it's not going to work against SoaR. It's SoaR, not Thor. Against SoaR, you just need to pick a mid game comp and beat them at their own game and beat their team fight.
I can understand why you said Thor as well, because obviously Andinster has been pretty much playing it most weekend as well. Good performance though overall from SoaR in game 1 there. Baskin went off as well in that game one more time on the Vamana. And the big talking point, I guess, for me is Vamana. You know, he's been around all weekend and been very consistent with that too.
And exactly, just so safe in lane and so hard to punish here. He just tanking some Phoenix shots just because he can. Gives him a little bit of something to look at and then comes up and cleans up the double kill. May as well.
He realized there that he didn't have to do any work to get the second kill, but securing the kill is always important, Aggro, right?
Yeah, I gotta pad those stats. I mean, Baskin, there's a lot of talk about if he's the best solo laner in the world, best player in the world, and the more kills you get, the better you look.
And what do you feel about the Vamana here, Drelo, as well overall? I mean, as the weekend's gone on, more and more of it has been seen and seems unstoppable.
It's definitely a big comfort pick of Baskin. It's also probably, in my opinion, a top 2 solo laner right now, or a top 2 solo lane pick right now. And also, Vamana is a very strong mid game pick. If Vamana is even or ahead in a matchup, he's gonna sort of transition to that mid game very strong.
So funny.